Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Chiro HD, Evo Creative Media, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Imaging Services, Chiro Moguls, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 580 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we have the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Joshua Henk. And if you want to hear a story about innate intelligence and the next savior for chiropractic, stay tuned. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. It says it right there on my hat, Chiro Hustle. This is a working man's hat. I wear it a lot. I actually wear this hat to work. This is what I do for work. But Dr. Josh Henk's coming in today from the Detroit area. Really pleased to have him on. We've been building a relationship over, some time now. But we actually spent some time together at a Influencing from the Front, I believe, with Roberto Monaco about 8 months ago. We were together in Atlanta, and we were starting to build a friendship from there, and here we are today, episode 580. Before we get into Dr. Josh's story, which I think is really cool, him and his wife are both chiropractors. I think it's really cool to have that type of congruency with your partner and how you raise a family and how you envision all the things that go into building a future together. So I'm excited that he has that fundamentals, and those go right into our big why. Why do we do what we do at Chiro Hustle? Well, freedom of speech is our anchor, and I think that that's really, 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 really important to the chiropractic profession. And speaking the chiropractic truth time after time again, no one can ever come in and dismantle the truth of chiropractic because we've documented it. So that's really cool about this show too. We've done so many episodes that we are keyword adopted into what chiropractic is. So it's really impressive. And we've never censored anybody. We know what it's like to be censored. I don't know why they would take a guy like me and shadow ban me or put up fact check me. But really chiropractic isn't for fact checking. And if you want to shadow ban it, I don't know what you're paying attention to. You're probably messed up. So let's talk a little bit more chiropractic intro. We do protect BJ Palmer Sacred Trust. We think it's really important to the profession. Everybody that's a chiropractor should be supporting. And if you don't know what the Sacred Trust is, go to your favorite search engine right now, stop this interview, and go find out BJ Palmer's last words. I guarantee you're going to learn more about chiropractic than you previously did. Back to the freedom thing. Family health freedom, medical freedom. Chiropractors are essential to us having the ability to have sovereignty over our bodies and make health decisions for our kids and have the freedoms to do how we take care of our community. So love chiropractic. If you guys are listening, the last thing I'll mention philosophically is we do support subluxation-based chiropractic. They're taking it out of the schools. We have to take this message and give it back to the chiropractors. If you're listening to this, give it to a young DC. Let them hear what Chiro Hustle does and let them get into this message of real deal chiropractic. We also believe in, this is one of our talking points today. We're going to talk about the 20 years down the line of chiropractic, but we're also going to talk about innate intelligence. And that's a big thing in chiropractic. So we support and believe that when man or woman the physical gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman the spiritual. And I know it's a big intro, but it's all important, and I pack it in as fast as I can, but people need to hear what we say, and it's important for people to hear somebody with a clear explanation of how when somebody gets adjusted by a chiropractor, it connects their physical to their spiritual. It's some big stuff, but it's really important for people to hear that, and that's what clearing out the Atlas does, and it reconnects people to themselves. So That's the beautiful part about chiropractic. So, Dr. Josh, you're episode 580. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Jim. It's about damn time.
I know, right? And off camera, you're like, one of the things I like most about where we're going is I can be myself and I can talk the way I want to. So let's keep that motivation going. But
Okay.
you got into Logan. I don't know anything about before Logan except for since you've gotten into Logan, now you're a chiropractor and you're teaching people. You're writing books. You're creating like plans to help like the whole body of the person, not just the adjustment. Like, let's talk to people. Like, what was the impetus for you to like say, I'm going to be a chiropractor?
Oh man. Well, let's start quick with I grew up and my parents got divorced when I was 3 years old. I went to church on Sunday, the mosque on Friday. I was torn between two belief systems my whole entire life. I felt like I was the wolf in sheepskin, no matter if I went to the mosque or I went to the church. I felt like I was being told I was in the wrong place. And now my father, he's a chiropractor, and he was a very, I wouldn't even use the term rigid. It's not fair because I love my father and how he raised me to be who I am today. I have an appreciation now for how he raised me. But growing up, I was always in search for the answer of what these two differing belief systems are trying to teach me. It wasn't until I got into chiropractic school and following my father's footsteps in such a way that I started to see, oh my goodness, there's a lot more to it than just the physical body. And we talk about innate intelligence. And there was a point in chiropractic school I was going to quit because it didn't really make sense for me. Am I just doing this because my dad wanted me to do it? We don't make very much money as chiropractors. We don't get very much respect. And quite honestly, they're just telling us we can't take care of anything but pain and muscle spasms and musculoskeletal conditions. We can't take care of people who have cancer, irritable bowel, dementia, seizures, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. We can't take care of those cases. Just refer them out. And I thought to myself, what am I going to a 4 year, 7 year, really 4 year, 4.5 years of trimester schools for? What am I doing all of this for? I can go sell real estate and make more money, right? So what I wanted to do was leave chiropractic. That I was set on it halfway through chiropractic school, and I threw a big party. And one of my buddies had ran into Eddie Weller. I'm sure you know Dr. Eddie Weller, right? Those of you who are out there probably know him too. And he invited me to a philosophy just night on Thursday nights, philosophy night. And my roommate had told me that he's an upper cervical guy. And I'm like, dude, you can't start with that. You mean he's gonna fix the top bone? And it's gonna fix everything else? That's not cool, man. Like, no, I'm like, I'm out of here. And he's like, he's banned off of campus. And I'm like, oh, I'm a big rebel myself. I'm like, I got to hear why this chiropractor is not allowed on campus. Why is he not allowed on Logan College of Chiropractic at the time? And now it's Logan University. So I sat in a Thursday night for probably 3.5, 4 hours with my jaw on the ground. And Dr. Eddie started with this idea that the power that made the body heals the body. And boom, church on Sunday, mosque on Friday started coming back, right? I'm like, wait a minute, innate intelligence is this Holy Spirit. It's this extra something inside of our body. It's what gives us life. I mean, that's what I get to work with. And it works through the nerves that are physical, but also functional. Like, dang, this is freaking awesome. And then he shared with me the sacred trust. And I said, wow, this is just this is like opening up an ancient book that nobody's opened for 5,000 years, blowing off the dust and seeing something that nobody else has seen before. Now, obviously, there's a lot of upper cervical chiros that existed, but in Logan, Dr. Eddie was the only one that ever presented to me a green book. Okay. Couple months later, I got into a Gonstead class. Dr. Cranwell had actually asked our entire class, who has ever read of a green book? Who's ever read a green book before? And my wife and I and Dr. Gabriel Flores, we all raised our hands. Just three of us out of a class of almost 100 students, three of us. So he starts laughing. He's like, fine. How many of you have ever even heard of a green book? We were the three hands that were only things up. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's like going to the mosque or the church on Sunday and they're preaching and giving a sermon. And you're like, hold up, wait a minute. You guys are following a book? How come nobody told me? I've been coming here for 3.5 years and nobody told me you guys are preaching from a book? You mean there's a book? There's 33? Oh my goodness, there's all these principles of chiropractic. And so that's when I started to discover an infinite depth and potential for chiropractic, an infinite depth and potential for chiropractic, which also meant an infinite depth and potential for healing. As soon as I saw that, I knew that I had to be a part of it in some capacity. And that's where I am now.
I got to ask you though, through this transition, why aren't they teaching the green books in chiropractic colleges?
That's a great question. I feel like it has a lot to do with politics. I also feel it has a ton to do with science. I mean, most of all, I think it has to do with science. We have these three principles of philosophy, which is debatable in schools. There's science and then there's art. And one thing that we cannot come together on is any of those three things, really, especially the adjustment. How should we adjust? How should we approach the adjustment or philosophy? But I've learned that science is what bridges the gap. It unites artistry and philosophy. It is the missing link, which is why BJ created an entire research center, had medical doctors on staff, had a rehab center, had probably offered detoxes to clear his clients of medical conditions, of anemias, of said other interferences that were not subluxation, but also interfering with innate's potential to heal. You see, BJ was all about the innate's potential to heal the body, and chiropractic is the tool that a chiropractor should use primarily to achieve those ends, as well as taking the adjustment primarily to the upper cervical. But of course, BJ worked with the entire spine. He had the worst spine of any chiropractor because he allowed all the chiropractors to work on him. He said, "You got a new technique? I'm the developer. Try it out." And so he had a really bad scoliosis himself. BJ did.
So
And so, go ahead.
when we think about not having green books into the schools, like does philosophy not matter? Because I think that what you said has saved your chiropractic career and helped you understand chiropractic as you're going through the program was philosophy. So how are we deciding to minimize or diminish or remove that foundational context to a chiropractic program? Like it doesn't really add up to me. And that's really why when I talk to so many docs that are out here practicing, they're like, gosh, if I get an associate in, I have to work with them for like 3 to 6 to 9 months in order to teach them philosophy and how to adjust. So
Yeah.
if they're like graduating in competency and they just pass people through to like finish like a board review and like pass like part 1 through 5 sometimes or 4 of their boards, like what are we actually producing for the open market when we have chiropractors that don't know what philosophy is and they don't know how to adjust? And like you said, when people go through this transition, all they do is start referring out. Like, what is
Yes.
that actually doing for the shareholders of chiropractic who are the graduates of these schools? And how are they actually to matriculate out and become practitioners? And like I always hear it, man, you can't just go hang your shingle up and expect people to come to you. Like you
Yeah.
have to be able to adjust and you have to have philosophy. Otherwise, you drift and you become a medipractor and you're doing stuff
Yeah, we're
that
definitely
doesn't.
being phased out.
Yeah,
We're being
it's
phased out.
clear. It's
And
clear.
I mean, it is clear, but we've been trying to be phased out since the early 1900s, and because innate intelligence is such a powerful force, that won't happen. It just won't happen, at least not under my watch, right? I'll be the savior of chiropractic, not the developer, not the founder. I shall be the savior of chiropractic. Hopefully, somebody will give me that name one day. However, maybe that's what it looks like in 20 years, right? But I'll give a little example of, let's say, when I was in art school before chiropractic school, getting my preliminary credits, they would put two different paintings on the wall, and they would ask you who painted each of those paintings, and then they asked you why. And then they would ask the class to answer those questions. Now, there was only one right answer to the first question, which was who painted each painting, right? A Rembrandt, a Da Vinci, whatever it was. But the answer to why it was painted and what it meant was completely different. So if I went up to my cell bio professor or my physiology professor or my phys die instructor and I asked them the simple question, they know a lot about biology, study of life, right? They know everything about the body, but when you ask them who created the body, they can't answer that question. They can't answer it. And why? Because that infringes on the separation of church and state, so to speak, right? Which is why it's important that chiropractic schools stay privatized and not publicized. The
Mhm.
publication of chiropractic school is what's ruining it because it separates us from church and state. And this separation from church and state is just simply allowing the ideas of innate intelligence to infiltrate the philosophy and the teachings. Because there's this separation, they don't want to talk about God. They don't want to talk about Jesus. They don't want to talk about Allah. They don't want to talk about Holy Spirit. They don't want to talk about anything that is not in the physical realm. Or, and here's the truth, they don't even want to talk about anything scientific. They really don't. And this is what's become the detriment to chiropractic is we have literally walked into being the dogmatic chiropractors that we used to be. History is repeating itself. And that's why we need to come back and bring the science back into the profession because the science is what helped to lead BJ to the philosophical truth. The philosophical truth. And the first sip of science, you'll be an atheist. But at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting for you. And I promise you, if you keep sipping that scientific glass, which is what I started to develop, right? And I use science to create value behind the subluxation and the adjustment that I provide, right? When we can use science to do that, the left brain, right, is being programmed. It's saying, yeah, I can see the subluxation on the x-ray. I can see the temperature measurements. I can see the biochemical changes in my blood. They're not correct, right? And then we can make adjustments and we can actually see all of those things start to reverse themselves. If we use the science as research, we can save chiropractic. We can bring back the philosophy into schools because now the simple fact, okay, the simple fact that we say the power that made the body heals the body and we do our procedures and healing is restored to that body, that right there confirms the hypothesis that the power that made the body heals the body. Now, if you claim that belief, you do a scientific workup, you give the adjustment, and no healing happens. Uh-oh. Well, that's not a valid hypothesis. But the hypothesis has been valid for over 120 years and since the beginning of time. The power that made the body heals the body. Of course, when there's no interference. Remove the interference, the body starts to heal itself, right? And that's what we really need to start bringing back into our profession is really the science because that's what is going to bring us back to our roots in philosophy, and it's also going to desegregate what's happening in our profession, which is segregation between techniques.
Mhm.
Okay, this is not a technique thing anymore. It's not. I don't care what technique you use. I don't care if it's upper cervical, Blair, toggle, full spine, diversified, ringer dinger. Okay. As long as you're doing a scientific analysis before and after your care, I'm all game for it because the science is going to lead you to the answers. You do the ringer dinger on somebody, let's say, and you did a thermal, let's say a Titronics thermography before and after, you'll see if it worked or not. You'll see if it worked or not.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Chiro HD, Evo Creative Media, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Imaging Services, Chiro Moguls, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now let's hustle. And that takes us back to a really foundational part of philosophy, which is adaptation. And we could talk more about how the people adapt, but I kind of want to go a different direction and more into business, because I think that people need to understand like how you've built value into your practice model. And, you know, I was kind of clicheing you off of camera, but I'm like, what people pay for, they pay attention to. And
They do though.
But you show people through the model, physical, chemical, emotional, how we can have somebody adapt in your model. And there's a profound impact on the outset of that type of service. And we can take thoughts, traumas, and toxins, and we can show that there's a profound influence of betterment when people actually like measure, like you said, the science. When we start finding out what's going on with like the systems, what systems are having problems, and how can we get those systems to function properly so that that person has the outcome that they want. They're not
Yeah,
there because they want to learn philosophy. They're not there because they want somebody to touch them. They're there because they're saying, wow, you're the smartest guy that I've ever met. You're my doctor now. Can you help me sort out
yeah.
some of these things that are going on? And then you're like, yeah, this is our method. So let's talk to people a little bit about chiropractic business and how you got to where you are with how you structure the value.
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite things to talk about, actually. It's why I created the hard way for chiropractors is to help them create a three-tiered diagnostic and a three-tiered care plan strategy. I feel like dead should be the days that you include your adjustment in the analysis because how do you know if someone needs an adjustment before you even do the analysis? You don't pay for an exam with a dentist and a filling at the same time. You separate those two and you give people options. And what's really happening is you're providing value. One of the biggest things in terms of value that BJ talked about was if your patient's holding or your client's holding, right, they should pay double your fee. If you have to adjust them, you should pay them. You should pay them for being able to practice on them. And what this meant was is the chiropractor should be paid for holding, not the adjustment. That's why I'm not big on adjustments. We give all kinds of adjustments. No, that's not what it's about if it's necessary, right? But we should be obsessed with holding, 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 holding. How do you know if someone's holding? Science,
Hmm.
right? That's the value. One of the biggest reasons why people chiropractor hop is because they don't know if their current chiropractor is actually helping them or not. They don't have some sort of gauge. You don't know if you're losing weight if you don't hop on the scale. How would you know without any scientific gauge, objectivity? How do you know if the person's improving some subluxation or not? So the way to actually break through what BJ was talking about in the value is to create a concierge model that is not dependent on the per visit care, but is more dependent on your ability to get them to hold. I have clients in my office that hold for years and they still pay their monthly throughout the whole year or pay yearly at a time. They may get other, adjustments here and there in other parts of the body, but let's say they're holding their atlas for a year. They're literally paying that whole year's in value of getting that one adjustment. I only call the upper cervical adjustment an adjustment. Everything else is just manipulation. Okay. Do we do that other stuff? Absolutely. We'll move a ilium. We'll do a fifth dorsal once in a while, but that's not an adjustment. That's a manipulation. And so we really want to increase the value of what you offer by I want you to be paid for them holding. And therefore your curiosity is how can I get my clients to hold? And that's where the oasis idea comes into effect. I think Dr. Castrellas, Kevin, he talked about the chiropractic oasis project, right? And I love it because we had it rooted in this idea of creating a holistic healing center for people to create an environment free of interference. The value, again, it comes from your client's holding and your ability to create an environment and a community to protect that sanctity, right? Our essence, our goal as a chiropractor should be not to adjust our clients more than once or twice or three times or 300 times, right? It should be to do less and achieve more, right? And so there's a lot to say about that principle, create a concierge model, not based off of getting paid for an adjustment. What happens if, you're sick or the power goes out? Now you lose all of your collections for that day. I get paid the same no matter what, whether I show up or I don't, whether people show up or they don't. In fact, when less people show up, people come in and say, "Hey, well, doc, business doesn't look too good today." And I'm like, first of all, I don't run a business. I run a service. I run a service. That's what I do. And I remind them exactly what I remind you. I get paid the same no matter what. I actually get paid more. I get paid more when nobody shows up because that means I have to do less adjusting, right? So how do you increase your adjust? Some people literally pay me $1,200 for an adjustment. They'll come in every week and get checked throughout the year and get one adjustment to their upper cervical. right? They may have a couple manipulations here and there, but other chiropractors want to charge 50, 60, $70 for that. We give that away for free. We don't do that. If you want to get your head on straight, we'll do that. And if you want to keep it on straight, we'll do that too. But before we do any of those adjusting or treatments or whatever you want to call them, we have to establish scientific value. And that's not where I started with Dr. Eddie Weller. He charged $200 a visit, one of the most expensive in the profession, and he charged $200, maybe $300, $400, something like that, for initial care plan, cash. And I said, what? So you got to go cash. You got to get out of the insurance model. You got to go cash, right? Because insurance is dictating the care almost every single time, and you have to increase the value. And that's where I started: $180 for an exam and $50 an adjustment. And I did that for maybe like 2 months. And then I said, this is not serving me well. After I read that chapter, and I said, I got to create a concierge model. So I started out $100 a month. I'll see you as often as possible, but you have to commit to 1 year. So it's $1,200 for a year. And here's why this is magic. People say you're giving it away. I don't see anybody 3 times a week. Number one, 5 people in my life have I ever seen 3 times a week. So when doctors are telling you they're seeing, 500 a week, yeah, the majority of their patients are being seen 3 times that week. Same patient 3 times. So they're seeing 500 adjustments a week. That's impressive to me. They're probably seeing people 3 to 5 times that week. Okay, what's impressive to me is less adjustments over time. So it's very important that we establish this value. And I have so many different ways I establish the value. The number one thing, though, like I was saying before I got off on my little tangent, is if you get your client to see you for 12 months, okay, you're going to ensure that that person's going to learn everything you want to teach them, because that's what matters more than the adjustment, right? You want them there so you can teach them about the adjustment. So you need them to be committed for a year. You'll literally give it away. Why? Because Nancy, who is their auntie, but they don't see until 8 months from now, is good for coming in. But until they see auntie, they'll never give you that referral. And maybe if your patient leaves in 4 months, you would have never got that referral, which could have closed and doubled the value of your initial patient. So you got to get your clients engaged in a 1 year care plan strategy. Make yourself so freaking busy you can't even, you're like, okay, I need to start increasing the fee structure, right? You increase your fee structure, but you have to have a meaningful increase. So you have to bring on new technology, right? You can't just say, oh, overnight we're increasing the price. People are like, well, what the, you've been giving me that same care the whole time. They're, the leaf because of that. You have to have a meaningful increase in value. So that's where we started bringing on infrared thermal camera imaging. We're one of the only doctors in the country that use this in the chiropractic profession. There are some other doctors. Most of them I've actually trained in the upper cervical world to get them to use thermal imaging, not just Titron scanning, because that increases value, right? Titron scan increases value. Having some sort of HRV, heart rate variability testing, blood analysis. That's totally chiropractic. How else do you find out the fourth component of subluxation, which is tissue dysfunction? How do you do that without checking the blood? I mean, there's other ways, I'm sure. Yeah, there's other tests. But blood is one of the best ways to identify the biochemical tissue dysfunctions inside the body, which validates scientifically the fourth component of subluxation. If you're not doing blood work, you're not evaluating subluxation fully, right? Oh, I just got some people pissed off, I'm sure, but that's okay, right? So now what our fee structure is, it went from 200 to 600 to 800. Now my basic workup, my 3-day chiropractic analysis using upper cervical thermal imaging is $1,200. And if the client is in a severe case at all, we will take off $700, which is the value of doing a thermal image series on your client, and we'll work them up for $500, which is still probably way more than anybody in the profession. But wait, there's more, because I don't work with anybody on that level. That's what my associates do, actually. Where I work in the office is my $2,400 and $4,800 exams. Yes, they're $2,400 to have a complete exam workup, and even $4,800. To be brief, it's a chiropractic evaluation, physical, right? X-ray, Titron scans, thermal images for the whole body, Zyto scan using biofeedback, right? And the last thing is a functional blood chemistry analysis, all for $2,400. Retail value $14,695. But we're able to get it to the public for $2,400, and everybody bites on that. Okay, I just saw a check over there. My wife just said, "Here you go," and I'm like, "What? A $2,000 check? Huh? Wow." She paid $2,000 just for a workup before she even got adjusted for her workup, right? Think about the value that that person's thinking that you're going to provide, and you better provide it though. You can't just be smoke and mirrors now. Okay, you have to provide the value. You have to bring the goods, right? But think about the value that that person. Think about the attention that person's going to pay to you, because that's like the number one frustration is nobody values me in the office. I talk to them all the time about subluxation. I said, look, you will feel valued when people pay you for it. It sucks. Trust me. Oh, you guys, I get it. I get it. It sucks that price determines value, but people don't understand value. They understand price. Shouldn't be that way, but that's just the way it is, right? So that's where, in order to increase the honestly, the political, the community, the worldwide access and awareness of chiropractic, we have to bring big money into the profession. Okay, big money. I know people that have a lot of money and they know Joe Dispenza. Okay, Joe Dispenza doesn't adjust anybody. Most of these people didn't even know Joe Dispenza was a chiropractor, right?
I know.
But Joe Dispenza has the potential to bring maybe $1 billion into our profession if he wanted to. Okay. And it's not by adjusting all the time, it's about creating opportunities for Innate to thrive, right? That's why I've created this, the hard way for doctors is to help them to see some freedom in their practice so that they can stop practicing. They can public master, right? We don't private practice, we public mastery. Okay. This is not practice, this is mastery. This is not private, this is public. Everything I do is in public. You see me online, we have open adjusting experience, and this is mastery. This is not practice. That's why we don't do it in closed doors, right? Public mastery. And so for public masters, why do we still charge $50 an adjustment when that's what doctors charged in the 80s, the late 80s, early 90s? Everything's increasing in price. Why not you? Man, that was the hardest thing I had to do. But when somebody stroked that check for $2,400, here you go. Wow, it really opened up my eyes, and I'm just getting started. We're going to have a $10,000 exam for chiropractic. I'm going to teach you all how to do it. It's very simple. You said it in our preliminary interview, real quick, Jim. Is as you said, people are coming to you because they know you're super smart and that you're the guy, and they were referred by their best friend. They honestly don't know what they paid, and they don't really care. They just know that you're the guy. When they come to you, they don't know really, for the most part, what the other person paid unless they told them. They just know that you're the guy. They're ready, or the girl, right? Or they, whatever you want to call yourself as a chiropractor, they will most certainly say yes to whatever it is that you offer. But I promise you, right now, you can come and look at my books. You can come sit in my office and right next to the clients as we close them, right? I close less cases at $1,200 for my tier 2 workup than I do now at $2,400. It blew my mind. More people are saying yes to $2,400 exams than $1,200 exams. And I got doctors trying to give it away for $29 online. I see their clients. They come to see me, right? So this is what I know we could do for the profession. We could provide a top-notch level of chiropractic, and not just chiropractic in the adjusting form. Chiropractic did not discover the adjustment. It discovered that innate intelligence is what animates all living things. That's chiropractic's claim to fame. It helped to discover innate intelligence and its ability to work through the nervous system and gain access and life to every cell. That is what we discovered. So there's so much more than just the adjustment that you chiropractors can be offering. So that's why Joe Dispenza does what he does. He talks about removing the interference in your mind, not just the body, right? Remove it from the mind.
So, two things in summary: holding is healing, and they pay for the check, not the adjustment.
Yes.
And on top of that, um, the mindset of the chiropractor has a lot to do with the development of the practice that they want to run. And that's a theme that I found through the 5 interviews that we've done today on Chiro Hustle is you guys can create whatever practice you want. And that's a
Yes.
beautiful thing about the artistic expression of chiropractic is it is science, as you've been talking about. It is philosophy, as we've been talking about, but it's also art. And the way that you deliver your care to your clients or your patients or practice members or whatever you want to call them, the people that show up, that's your art. And that's
Yeah.
the triune of the profession, science, philosophy, and art. And I think
Yeah.
that the big takeaway was when you get somebody into your model, you have to believe in it so much that you earn the fee that they pay for the services that you render. And the
Oh,
outcome is healthy
yes.
people. And if we get healthy people, they'll pay any amount of dollars. You know, there's
And
a
people think that that's just like feeding off of the sick. That's not what, oh, I got into this to take care of the poor man, the poor person. I say, you wonder why poor people are poor? Because of mentality. That's why chiropractors are poor, because of mentality, right? That's why I also created the Forge and Fire Mentality Mastermind Experience to help men break through in their mental state. What is holding them back? Why do they have the mentality that they have? Right? This is huge, Jim. So I thank you for touching on that. That's just huge. The mentality is a crucial piece, probably the most important piece of the whole puzzle. I don't care what you wear. I don't care if you have a beard, long hair, suit and tie. It's your mentality going into it.
yeah, and that's your identity. And it allows people that are under your care to adapt. And that's just
Yeah.
it. As chiropractic's like major like message to me has been a lot of philosophy. The power that made the body heals the body. The body needs nothing extra in it, simply no interference. When you remove the interference, it gives the body's ability to heal naturally. It doesn't need extra. So remove the interference, allow the body to find its balance of health again and restore itself. The number one doctor in the world is the one inside of us. It's not the one
Yes.
you go see. So once you clear out the nervous system, the body is the doctor. It does heal itself. And it's not about what you don't have, it's what you do have. And
Yes.
that's what I've taken away from a lot of chiropractors too, is what you have is a sacred trust and to guard it well, but also to go out there and to take care of your community and get connected to your community and become that go-to place where people know that they can go for health, they can go for trust, they can go for community. And really the big thing is what you said is doesn't matter the price tag. People want to be invited in. That's a
They want to be a
major
part of a community.
that's a
That,
major
that's that's
theme of
that's
what we've
huge.
been doing here with Cairo Hustle is I've interviewed 1,200 people. And what I've realized is that when you invite people in, they will show up. And
Yes.
when you invite people in, they become your family. And when you invite people in, you create a community. And when you invite people in, they feel acknowledged. And then they have the ability to go do better for other people. And that's the beautiful thing about podcasting and the way that we do it. It's a beautiful thing about doing the interviews the way that we do it, because now we give you a chance to be reintroduced to your friends, your family, your colleagues, your kids. And this will be in existence from now into perpetuity. It will never go away. And it will document this profession on November 14th, 23 at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Somebody can go back in the history of this recording and say that was important. That
Yes.
documented the message that that chiropractor needed to have heard, acknowledged, and seen. And that's the beauty of what we do here. It's irrefutable.
I'm already getting a couple messages right now. Tell me about the hard way. I can see my
Yeah,
messenger right now. Tell me
yeah.
about the hard way. What is that about?
Yeah, well,
It's huge, man.
people want to be a part of whatever you're doing, as long as the outcome is what they are anticipating. So, if you take blood work, what does that look like in 90 days? I don't know how long it takes for blood work to clean up. I'm not a doctor. If you do a thermal scan on somebody, what does it take to pull the inflammation down in somebody's body? What does that look like objectively? That's science. Like that's the
Yeah.
part where I don't do. That's the part that I don't know. But when you think of the components of what makes a chiropractic office produce what it does, it's so much about the congruency with the practice model for the adaptability of the people that come in. like you said, whether it's $50 an adjustment or whether it's a $2,400 workup to show people what they can do. And then commitment. I think that's the biggest part of the business modeling is when you commit
Yeah.
to them, they will commit to you. If you don't commit to them, they will never commit to you. So you have to be also congruent enough with your messaging to commit to the people that you take care of. Um,
So it's like dating, right? So, I
yeah.
mean,
So
sometimes people want to get married right away. Some people are like, hey, let's get engaged first. Some people are like, hey, let's just date for a while. You got to have options for people when they're looking to work with you. And that's why it's important to have a three-tier diagnostic and care plan strategy. You give people options and you also set your standard of where you want to work from. And you go from there. That way, all parties, you and your clients, your community are all happy. Everyone's
well,
valued. Everything's good.
Dr. Josh Henk, you're a doctor, you're a father, you're a husband, you're a friend, and you're episode 580 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you think that we should touch on?
No, bro, I think you hit it, man. The only thing I will say right now is, for you chiropractors that are out there that have a family, just remember, just remember that, if you're grinding away, there'll always be subluxation out there to be taken care of. There'll always be money and opportunity to have. But this picture right here, my kids and my family, in 10 years, their faces are not going to be the same. Everything else will be the same. Money will still be there, subluxation will still be there. Do not sacrifice your family. Sorry. Don't sacrifice your family or the people that you love for just going in to the office each and every day. Make sure that if you have a family, if you don't have a family, grind away, get to the next level. But if you have a family, make sure you prioritize them. Make sure you prioritize them more than anything else. And, that's what's really led me in the direction that I'm in. And I maybe seem like I'm doing big things right now, but you asked the question, what do I plan on seeing in the profession in 20 years? Well, I plan on it, 15 years, my kiddos will be all old enough. My youngest will be 17, maybe. So by that time, my kids are um, off into college, high school, whatnot. They don't need daddy all the time. Now I can put my head down and really bring $1 billion into this profession 20 years from now, whether that be through Chiral Hustle, whether that be through different institutions, but I want to bring money, which equals opportunity, into this profession and ultimately bring back the value that BJ put down over 100 years ago, baby. Like, come on, that dude was freaking magnificent. He had a circus. He had the only statues outside of, the King of Siam's island. Like, dude, this dude was just magnificent. He was one of 17 people invited into King Tut's tomb. I wanna bring back the royalty, the respect, and and just the sexiness and elegance of chiropractic because that's just what it is, the truth. So, again, the last thing is, like I said, don't sacrifice your family or the people that you love for this profession. I know a lot of you are doing that, but I promise when you don't do that, all of a sudden, that that truth of what matters most to you will start shining through. So, your patients will feel it when you prioritize them over your family, and you'll feel it more than anything. So I think that's one big revelation I've had over the last few years is I could just keep grinding hard. I don't like to see people grind. I like to see them get into the sharpening phase. So you guys get out of the grind, get into the sharpening phase, increase your value, start charging triple or double what you currently charge, and now you can see half or a third of the people that you currently see, and you have a lot more time in life for the people that matter the most.
Don't use your business to hide from your family is my takeaway there. And if
Yeah.
people wanted to work with you, learn more about you, have you on their show, interview you, join your programs, where's the best place to send people to?
The best way, honestly, is Facebook. That's where I'm at. I ain't got time to be on 10 different social media platforms. Hit me up on Facebook, message me. That's where I'm at. Don't go onto my website unless you want to be a client of mine. If you want to work with me, learn more about me, talk with me, connect with me, get a part of the hard way, come to one of our Costa Rican retreats, just message me. That's all I can say. Message me, Dr. Josh Hank, like me, follow me. I got a lot of videos online.
And if you're looking
You
for
know
him on Facebook, it's not just Josh Josh or Joshua Henk, you have to put the DR in front of Joshua.
Yes.
So it's Dr.
Dr.
Joshua
Josh.
Henk.
Yeah.
So, uh,
Yeah.
hey, man, thanks for being episode 580 of the Chiro Hustle podcast.
Thanks for letting me push it to 45 minutes, baby.
Well, the most important thing is to make sure that our guests are acknowledged and seen and heard, and that they get the value out of doing the shows with us too. So please share this with your network, and I'd love to have you on again in the future.
Yes, please do. Reach out. I'll be on, bro. And we'll see you over here in the Detroit area, hopefully early next year, or at least, mid to late next year.
Let's keep the dream
Can't
alive.
wait.
And
Dude, it's not
yeah.
dying, baby. It's just growing.
Well, I close out like I always do, and I tell the audience out there, you're just one story away. Keep hustling. And thanks for being our guest today. And yeah, we'll talk soon, okay?
Got you.
Have a good
See you,
night.
bro. You too.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.